Danny on the beat, boy.
Happy New Year, man, and welcome to another episode of Halftime Adjustments. It's your host, Eddie Arnell, my man G Witt, Mr. J. Lou. What's going on, fellas?
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up.
Tighten up, man. Week 17. Got a little hot mic here. Let me turn myself down just a little bit. Yeah, week 17, guys. Titans come in at 5-10. With that next man up mentality, a lot of injuries have plagued this team in the past few weeks. You pretty much got your preseason squad in the secondary, if you will. And trying to capture their first division win of the season, which is kind of funny to say at this time of the year. And I hadn't said that in a while for this team. Matter of fact, you got to go back to the Oilers when they had a 9-game schedule, when they hadn't won any division opponents, division games. And so it's been a long time. And yet we still have one more game left to try to accomplish that. But it's going to be a tough task to ask. Texans 26, Titans 3. Leaving the Titans limping. I feel like they limped away more after this game. Myself, just another game to where, you know, some of the funniest memes are made off of April's facial expressions kind of as here these recent weeks, man. And appreciate you, Eddie Gray, man. Happy New Year. Glad you had a safe one as well. So let's flip it a little bit. Let's talk about some highlights, because there are some things that are nice to see coming out of this week. I know we could beat the horse to death about the offensive line, about the play calling, about the coaching, but some things, man, that showed up that are pretty remarkable in some cases, and we'll get more to that in just a second. But J. Lou, what kind of positives can we take away from this game? Is there anything to build off of? Is there any kind of special things that you noticed after week 17?
So again, I've been looking towards 2024 since probably week 8. If we want to be honest, you know, you always have a chance when you're in AFC South. I think we all can say that because we've seen the South for 20 years and we know what that division is. But when you start looking at ahead, I thought we talked about him last week a little bit. I know we talked about him in preseason. When Otis Reed the fourth really learns how to play linebacker, he might be something special in the league. He's a heat-seeking missile, and he's fast. Now he has no discipline with zero with it he's playing in. But when he gets some coaching on that, you talk about speed at that level. I think you have something to build there as a depth piece. I think the one thing we all can agree on that we talked about that hindered this team from training camp on was we had no depth at linebacker, and now outside of Azier, you have nobody. I mean, Gibby's a nice piece, but Gibby fits if he's got some more speed around him. So he's not your starting. So I think if you can continue to see Otis Reese get some playing time, good to see him getting that playing time and really getting some real live reps, because you can't replicate, as G Witt and Ed always say, preseason speed's different than games than regular season is regular than playoffs. So good to see him getting some live action there against, but we say, some quality competition that basically it was a playoff game for the Texans yesterday. I think without a shadow of a doubt, we've continued to say it. You always hear about the second-year wall for these rookies. Can they have a breakout second season? Sometimes they go in a slump. I will say this, that Roger has solidified himself as our top cornerback. Now, I'll preface that by saying he can be our number one corner, but he still does not need to be outside. I feel like you need to find a true cornerback one, and I'm under the impression I would bring back Sean Murphy-Bunting on a nice veteran package to be your cornerback number 2, in essence, on the outside, and continue to let Roger stay at that slot, because there's something to build off right there. Offensive side of the ball, we continue to talk about it. I've continued to talk about it in the last 6 weeks. Chig continues to show up and make plays. You saw yesterday that it's just been amazing that you've seen the philosophy change when this roster was announced. We only carried 2 running backs. We only carried 2 or 3 tight ends that confused all of us with the tight end. And I mean, you was down to basically Chig and offensive linemen yesterday once the tight end Reader went down. So, but you continue to see Chig. I think he can continue to be a weapon in this offense, and he's continuing to finally. He passed the second year wall, and I feel like he's out of his head. And you see him like he hasn't. I don't worry about him dropping the ball right now. Now I say that and watch this week and go out and do it, but I feel like you can depend on him right now, and he's finding his footing in this offense. I think the other thing that's a positive but also a negative, this offensive staff, whether it be the staff we currently have, a new staff, etc., we have got to find a way as the Tennessee Titans to cut ties with Derrick Henry, and I don't mean release him, but cut ties with Henry and start scheming plays for your playmakers. I think and it goes to something that I heard Blaine Bishop say. It's been a few weeks ago when we still were playing Fulton and they were playing the yo-yo with taking them out. This team to me plays with the mentality of if I make a mistake, I might get pulled or not get the ball again. And I noticed that by saying Treylon Burks. You went to Treylon on a deep pass to be the second play of the game, I believe, third play of the game. He drops it. Yeah, bad drop. We get that. My man only had 2 more targets the rest of the game.
Yeah.
To me, you see the good receivers. We've seen D-Hop drop a pass into this year. A.J. Brown, when he was here, had some dropsies. You've got to continue to go back to them. But I think too many times I put them in the doghouse mentality. I'll bring up Chig. He's one. We saw the drops at the beginning of the year. Then you see him on the field just being decoy. So we've got to, the positive to me in that is we've got to find a way we've got some guys on this team, some young talent that can be playmakers, your Spears, your Chigs, your Burks if you feed him more. Because again, I'm not under the mindset of calling Burks a bust after year 2. Now, year 3, we can talk again. But after year 2, it is what it is. I think, and I said it when he was drafted, Burke, nobody on the Titans fan base would look at Burks if he didn't come in under the
right. He already had a weight on his shoulder.
Yeah, he had the weight on his shoulder coming in, and I think that's too much. So, but I just feel like the coaching staff has to find a way to allow these guys to make mistakes and continue to develop that way. But that's some of the pretty positives that I've seen coming from. And again, the one on offensive line, because I know that's the one that everybody's. I feel like you continue to sign Dylan back as a depth piece, because I still think that Dylan Radins is playing some decent ball. And I will tell everybody to pump their brakes on Peter. When he's playing with the turnstile as the left tackle and he's playing with a center who's getting bulldozed every time, my man is going to start slipping a little bit. So if you can get some talent around him, I think we'll see the Peter that we saw earlier in the season.
Gee whit.
Oh, okay. Well, Jay Lou pretty much covered all of it in all honesty. But I agree with him as far as one, Chig. I thought Chig did a great job. His durability is showing up in the game, which I really like, and his dependability. I thought with him catching the ball and actually going for extra yards and everything. I'm with you on Skoronski, really, in all honesty. Other than Dylan Radins being a backup piece, you got to look at the whole offensive line. But I think Skoronski, first of all, understand he's never played guard before in his football career. And now he's playing left guard. And as Jay Lou, you just alluded, he's got a turnstile at left tackle and he got a weak center right on the other side. So, yeah, he has nothing to depend on. And a lot of times what he's doing, and he's getting bull rushed. But that's a rookie. I got no problem with that. That's a rookie. He's a rookie guard playing it for the first time, and overall he's done a good job. Even a lot of the, I'm going to say, experts on the game, they've all complimented him, saying, yeah, he's had some bad plays, but overall he's had a great year. He had a good year, I should say. I agree with you on Treylon Burks. I think when he missed that one ball, I think, like you said, for some reason the receiver's going to the doghouse. But really, his problem right now really is staying healthy. His problem is staying healthy. I feel like if he stays healthy and stays on the field, more targets will come his way. I think the biggest problem you have with him right now is that he just can't stay healthy. And that's going to be his biggest issue. On the defensive side of the ball, definitely Roger McCreary is the best corner we got. But again, I think he's, like you said, he's better suited inside in the slot as a nickel. But the thing I like about Roger McCreary is that more than anything else, he's not afraid to tackle. You know, he's not afraid to go in there and wrap up. And that's one thing you saw yesterday. I agree with Otis Reese. I don't know if how he's going to pan out and everything, but he's definitely got some good speed. He's definitely plays the run well. But I will say this, and this goes for even Al-Shaair, we're light at linebacker.
Yes.
I've been complaining about having speed at linebacker for years, but not only do we finally got some linebackers with a little bit of speed, but they're all light in the tail.
Yeah, they hit the weight room.
They got to hit that. I thought Elijah Molden had a pretty decent game. Of course, Harold Landry, I thought again played an outstanding game. I'm looking forward to next season with him to see how he does with a full season being completely healthy. Because you see right now he's back to form where he's getting his sacks, he's making his tackles for loss. I think he's going to be a good compliment. Hopefully they can sign Danico Archery back, and get him back. And with Big Jeff, they just got to worry about finding some D tackles or nose tackle or whatever, so we can get that going and finding some linebackers and secondary pieces on the defensive side of the ball. But I give Tannehill his credit for staying in there, durability. After last week, I didn't think he was going to show up too much. He really didn't show up much this time. Still took a bunch of sacks, but I give him credit for his durability because, he had no shot. A lot of those, he had absolutely no shot. Will Anderson Jr., he just flew past our man. Then I was like, good grief. This just don't make any sense. He did it so much. He did it the first time so easy. He went for it the second time and got there just as easy. Nobody made an adjustment. I will say this, though, and it's not necessarily a negative, but I will say this. We talk about the rookie wall. I think Tyjae Spears hit the rookie wall as well because I saw him not reading the hole as well as he had been in the past. And that was the one thing I would say, and I was surprised by that. He did it a little bit last week, but yesterday, I looked at his stat. He had 0 yards. 5 attempts, 0 yards. And a lot of that was simply because he got tackled in the back. So, there are pieces to build on, absolutely. I think so as well. But there's a lot to be done with the squad. And again, as much as I hate to say it, because I want to see a championship so bad it ain't even funny. But yeah, we're probably 2 years out before we actually get to the point where we're seriously competitive for anything, as far as from what I can see.
Yeah, great points about both of you guys. Some of the things that I just want to point out, and we all know that Henry went over 1,000 yards yesterday, and D-Hop. Think about that for a second. With the type of offensive line and the offensive line play and the offense itself, Derrick Henry was second in the league in carries. And so, we all complain about Derrick Henry not getting the ball enough, but he was second in the league with carries. Let that sink in for you. D-Hop again over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdown reception, average 14.9 a reception. So those numbers are crazy considering the type of offense that we had this year. Spears over 1,000 all-purpose yards that we talked about last week. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got Landry and Danico both with double-digit sacks. I don't know how many teams in the league can actually say that.
0
at this point, right? 0.
Titans,
right? Which is crazy, a crazy number to me. Again, Shaair has got 153 tackles. Mm-hmm. He's close to breaking the franchise record of 166. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it a bunch on this show, having the safety being your leading tackler, and now we have a linebacker that can make tackles. And then the craziest thing of it all, and the best red zone defense in the NFL, which is just
doesn't make sense.
It's just mind-boggling that it's that way. And I know we talk a lot about the defense, man. But let's start on defense this week because I want to go more in depth into it because I was talking with my wife and she was asking me about the defense and I was telling her about the coverage and how Bowen said, hey, he leaves it up to them to determine whether they press or not. And I was like, yeah, that takes a lot of communication because if the corners decide they don't want to press or they want to press, they got to make sure the safety understands their responsibility as well. And to me, what it boils down to, and I know we talked about it a lot, that they run the same stunts up front. Well, one thing that I don't know if you guys are able to see some of the Baltimore game. I guess it was last week, and it was another team. I can't remember who it was. But, man, I saw some zone blitzes that were amazing.
Mhm.
You know, and I think it was Baltimore. The quarterback checked the protection to the right side when they showed two coming.
Yeah.
Right. And so they brought one on this side and they brought another one from his left and they dropped one out of the middle in coverage. Man, he held the ball and got sacked. So that's what I'm saying. It's not the fact that we are not running blitzes. They're just not creative enough.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's true.
you know, just those simple changes. Okay, you can have your DBs playing 10 yards off. I know we don't, you know, that, yeah, whatever. But if you have different designs of blitzes coming to where there's confusion for the quarterback, then yeah, let's do that. But we don't see that out of Bowen. And you know, it's easy to pick up. You know, it's amazing that you have Harold Landry and Danigo's got double-digit sacks, considering that we run the same stunts up front every game
time
without you know, not much creativity. And again, you saw the Bengals playing the Chiefs yesterday. Pat Mahomes calls out the slide. He said, "Watch the nickel. Watch the nickel. The nickel didn't blitz. Here comes the inside guy.
Yeah.
And gets right in his face." So that's what I'm saying. Just different stuff like that. But yeah. So let's go into the defense a little bit more. G Whit, man. I like I said, just the creativity. What I'm talking about, and like I said, we can nitpick Bowen to death, and we have on this show. But I believe the third down defense, for example, 3 for 11 yesterday. That's outstanding. 1 for 3 in the red zone. That's great. Anybody would love to have those numbers. And then, but you get the bad of it where you get Garrard he's got containment at cornerback. He runs inside.
Oh my god!
And Singletary bounces it outside. So I'm like, man, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, and really, when you look at the defense and all honesty, first of all, you know, we were going back and forth, texting each other. You know, it is mind-boggling about this defense and the fact that we have the #1 red zone defense in the league. Yet, statistically, our defense is in the bottom 5 as far as yards and all of that is concerned. I mean, we really can't even stop the run anymore. That's one other thing about that. But really,
They got him speechless.
yeah, because you know, I'm trying to really, other than what I've said already, I'm trying to find something else more to say about the defense, really in a positive manner, and there isn't a whole lot. We've beat the scheme to death. We've beat the lack of tackles to death. I mean, you know, I thought it was good seeing Wallace back out there, but really we just had way too many missed tackles. As far as I'm concerned, we played the run better than we did the first time we played against the Texans, but still they had 111 yards total. You know, you just didn't have one guy blowing us up, but he got 80. I mean, you know, you just see those things, man. It's just the lack of discipline is really what's driving you nuts. As you mentioned, you know, you send Garrard in from the outside, and he goes inside and leaves a gaping hole on the corner for Singletary, and he just runs straight on through. Same thing with man, my boy, I can't even think of his name now. 99. You know, he has the same issue. Weaver does not set the edge, does not do a good job setting the edge and everything. So, you know, you see all of this, and you just wonder. That's why I say, really, it's going to take. You guys have been saying it. I've been trying to deny it because I don't like losing, and I want a championship. But in all honesty, I have to just yield and say I yield. It's going to be 2 years. Because again, with this defense, they got to go out and find some players. And I'm going to go back to what I was telling J. Lou yesterday. It's not going to do any good with draft picks unless we get some coaching changes. And if you ain't changing coaches, you got to be changing philosophy. Because right now, what you've been running the same philosophy for the past 3 years, and everybody knows it. So if you're not creative in today's NFL, offenses are going to pick you apart. And a lot of times that's what they're doing. The only good thing about this defense, and we keep saying it's an oxymoron because you can't believe it, the #1 in the red zone, and you see when people get in the red zone, when they get inside the 20, inside the 10, they try to run. They can't run. It's hard for them to run the ball. They try to throw. They do a good job in blanket coverage. I think one of the things that helps them out, more than anything else is the fact that they know they got the back of the end zone as an extra man. So the receivers can't go that deep. So our lack of speed, I'm going to say, in the secondary doesn't necessarily come to the forefront when you're in the red zone because you got limited space. But from 20 to 20, man, that's a lot of work to be done. It's a lot of work to be done.
Right. It's so crazy. Let me get some comments here, Jay Lou. I'm gonna come to you real quick. James, man, thank you for joining us. Now he said, "What about a road trip to Chicago next year?" You got to look into that, brother.
Yeah, depends on what time of year.
Right.
I ain't going to Soldier Field in the cold. I'm sorry.
Why don't Sko get left tackle shot, man? I don't know. That's a good question. Paula D says, Happy New Year to us. Happy New Year to Paula D. Do we think the Titans make any personal changes in the coaching? So we'll get a little bit of that here in a second. Eddie Gray, build. The thing to build on, got top 7 pick, lots of cap, and people that don't want to take the bull by the horn in this division and the last place schedule. Got some things to be looking forward to for that. And yeah, you got to give a shout out to Duncan, man, coming in with a bum wrist, trying to give it all he got, man. I actually think he's got some potential, but we'll see what happens there. But Jay Lou, man, so the defense we know is so frustrating. Here's something else, and I'm gonna let you go, man. I just want to get this out real quick. The defense is middle of the pack in the NFL. That's another crazy thing, right?
Yes,
17th overall. Yeah. But you would have thought was worse than what it is. I mean, right there, all their numbers are right in that range from 16th against the pass, 14th against the rush, 16th against points. Jay Lou, go ahead, man.
Defense. Yeah, I mean, as I pointed out in our text thread yesterday, the defense again only gave up 19 points.
Yeah,
you're supposed to win more games than not in the NFL, but we can't score. Well, it's 3 yesterday, but we can't score over 17. So, and that's 2 years in a row. This offense has been a lack of scoring like that. But overall defense, I mean, not to be the dead horse, I thought again, when you start looking at some of these not even preseason players that we got out there, they're getting real game speed. You got it. So as G-Wit just pointed out, and we've been trying to tell you since last summer, I think, that it was coming. And this is the second year. I think next year you can see it turn a little bit, depending on how you operate in free agency. Because just because you got cap space money, the Bears had the most money last year. They got the number 1 pick this year, and I think a top 10 that's their own. They got Carolina's, but I think their own. And they got a good nucleus though. But I think they proved as well you can't build the offensive line through free agency. You can get everything else. So but there's some optimism to see that change. But from a defensive philosophy standpoint, G-Wit, you said they get better in the red zone. That's because you can't play 10 yards off the ball with goal to go. I agree with you. Yeah, you can't. Literally, you can't play 10 yards off that way. It's just I don't. Bowen, man, I don't know what to say about him. Literally, I saw it again yesterday. So if you go back and look at the first couple of drives, because again, this is our first time that we're going against the rookie quarterback because he didn't play week before last. They had some things that they were trying to confuse him, but to each of our point, it's so simple that by second quarter, they saw the little tablet and was like, okay, we've got this figured out. And I don't know how many times I text y'all yesterday. I just want somebody to set the edge because I think everybody knows now the Titans are going to cave in. Play action, it was irritating me even with Landry and some of the better players, they kept crashing on. We do not know how to defend the read option play action as a Titans team. And we kept crashing crashing on play action. And I mean, you've given up the edge and they're gone. So we've got to get out of the philosophy we've been running. And it starts with Vrabel. I'm going to say that because this is his defensive scheme. But I thought some of the role players you saw, you continue to see what plagues this team. We've always had a strong somebody we've mentioned. We always talk about coaching, and I think when you start looking at some of these positions, I think some of these position coaches just out coach better than Vrabel. Be honest. The D-line, there's a reason that he named him the assistant head coach this year because we had some guys in there. Number 91 looked like the most unathletic NFL player I've seen. Big guy. He was playing well. Like the D-line is one of the few spots on this entire team that if you think about over the last 2 years has rotated bodies in and left and right and never missed a beat. There's a reason why they let Tart walk and really didn't blink an eye at it because you've got somebody to fill their spot. I mean, we just got, who was it, Mario Edwards last year? Went and got him paid in the offseason because of the scheme. So the D-line, that coaching is spot on.
It's top notch.
It's top notch. It's the rest of it that goes. And again, I think we have the coach on the staff from a DB standpoint. We just got to. I think that's one. I heard somebody comment yesterday that Vrabel probably always wants to be the smartest guy in the room when it comes to coaching, and I think you're seeing that because you can't do that. And again, I think our DBs. Washington didn't have no big name DBs last year. Look how they balled out. And again, we have DBs that should be playing man to man, and yet we want to play 10 yards off zone. Everybody wants to, and this is why I'm under the impression where I told you that I would bring back Sean Murphy-Bunting. Sean Murphy is the only one that if he plays man every single play,
I like it.
Play,
he's physical.
He's physical. Yeah, he might get beat on the. He's Malcolm Butler. What Malcolm Butler was for us. Malcolm Butler was gonna get beat on some plays, but Malcolm Butler at least was jamming them in their face at the line and wasn't afraid to tackle. We have no other DBs that way, so it's just that the defense probably, and this is where I agree with when we've been saying it's 2 years away. You've got to fix offenses off season. I think we all can agree on that. The defense really needs another overhaul because you've lost depth there, and you have lost depth when it comes to the back seven. Your front four, the schemes you keep running can't get there with your front four. You need that back seven to be solid, and you have no depth, period, back there.
Right. So Dion says Greg Williams for DC and Munchak for O-line. That's pretty interesting. Now, the only thing you have with that is you got another alpha in Greg Williams, which I don't know if Vrabel wants another alpha. We've seen how that worked out for him. Somebody even said bring Arthur back because he's probably going to be available too. Travis White, you're right, man. Lack of speed and eye discipline from the DBs is awful. Eddie Gray brought that out before too, is that they don't know how to turn their heads around. Will says, Vrabel's been swept by 2 rookie head coaches, but people continue to praise him. And Jay Lou said this yesterday, and you correct me if I'm wrong, G-Wit. Wasn't there an issue with protecting Mariota at one time that got some people in trouble?
Oh, absolutely.
And so you saw yesterday, and I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but the last time we had an issue protecting a potential franchise quarterback, some heads got rolled.
Oh yeah.
So,
mid-season.
At mid-season. So I'm not saying that. He's been beat by some rookie head coaches in the division. Made some questionable calls going the last few weeks. I don't know, man. The seat's a little warm. It's probably warmer than what we thought at this point.
Well, he's going the way of the other 2 Mikes who have been head coaches here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because they're gonna have a conversation, and again, they may stay the course, they may stay status quo, but the conversation is going to be had, and it's going to be a short turnaround on some of these guys. Because I'm interested to see how it works out if it does stay status quo. How much you see out of the DC and the OC as team become aggressive. They're going right now. They're to me baseball, except for when you get in the red zone. You just don't have it. Let's just be.
Hey, G, you breaking up really bad, man. I don't know what's
going
on.
It?
Yeah. So Dion, you're right. He was number 2 overall pick and left the second round. So, but if you see your potential, that you have a guy that could be your potential franchise quarterback, and you put him back out there.
I kept saying it last week when everybody was talking about, do you play Levis? Yeah, so this is where you're on a double-edged sword. You want him to get the experience, yes. You want him to go against Stroud, the two futures of the division. You hope down the road that's a battle for the divisional championship. I get all that, but you don't sacrifice him behind me out there playing offensive line and I can't move and block nobody. And that's basically what we were doing, with having him out there. So, Ed, man, you talked about it, and you said the seat's a little warmer. Let's just see how. I said it yesterday, and all of our fans that's on the show, put it in the chat and see if you agree with me. I told y'all yesterday, or maybe I said it to you, Ed. I thought yesterday was the first game that I thought the Titans was already said Cancun on 3 in the huddle.
Yeah.
Because that was the first game that they looked like they were disinterested in playing. So if you come out and again, it's a playoff game for Jacksonville because they'll know going into Sunday afternoon what they got since the other two played the night before. If you come out and lay an egg like that at home and just seem like you already have your vacation bags packed, that's a sign of losing the locker room, which folks have said Vrabel hasn't lost it yet. I still think that seat is warmer than everybody else wants to think. And let's just say this time, a week from today, because that Black Monday is next Monday, don't be shocked if you do see a change that nobody probably saw coming.
So let's think about this too, and we'll point out a few things on the offense, not a whole bunch. Think about this too. So you got Rand came in, right? And he's already got a mindset of what he wants. And I'm going to say he doesn't see it at this point. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm just guessing. So he might have a thought of bringing in a whole new staff. Or, we'll see. We'll see what happens. He like we've mentioned before, both of you have mentioned, he's had a whole season now under his belt. He have a whole off season to kind of evaluate where this team is and where he wants this team to go. And having the ear of Miss Amy, I'm sure she's expressing that as well. And so, I got you, Travis. He said, if we fire him, what other head coach do we pursue? That's a great question. I don't know.
So that's the question that everybody asks. But I mean, the Texans would have had the number 2, number 3 pick last year, fired their whole staff. He's going to win 10 games probably. And they went
probably be coach of the year.
Coach of the year. And they went with and again, that franchise was a dumpster fire. So it started at the top and got rid of GM and all. Yep. And they hired a hot and upcoming defensive minded. Now he's a defensive minded head coach, right? But he's one that is allowing the offense to run through the offense. So when everybody keeps asking, you can't keep giving Vrabel a pass because you don't know who you're going to hire. I think that's a cop-out. And I get it because, you don't want to keep going through the cycle of firing coach after coach. But if you got a hot upcoming offensive coordinator that can be creative and they do like my guy from Houston is doing and allow your other if I'm a specialty in offense, let me run this and handle this and I'm going to get somebody on defense. Hey, go make the magic happen for me. And when you start looking around the league at a lot of these coaches here recently who have become coordinators to now run the show, I think about LaFleur. Everybody forget that LaFleur and Vrabel interviewed against each other. Yeah, and we just took LaFleur as the old offensive coordinator. LaFleur, look what he's doing with Green Bay this year. They basically a win away from clinching the division. And again, he's an offensive minded coach. He sticks to the offensive side of the ball and is letting his D coordinator, who again is suspect sometimes, letting him run it. So I agree. There's some. To me, I think you have to go with an offensive-minded coach for what you have on this team, because we've got to me, and I only say that is because I feel like Jeff Fisher, he was defensive-minded. The one offensive coach you tried to have was Wizen Hunt, and he was just and he was just a joke. So I think you've got to try to go offensive-minded because the Titans have been around since 98, 99, and we've been running the same type of offense. Might change the coach. Same type of offensive philosophy since then. And I think you have to find somebody that can kind of bring you in to the new age. And if I was running the ship, that's what I would look forward to. And then just let somebody build that defense. Because you've got pieces on both sides of the ball. The problem is, as we just pointed out a few minutes ago, you can't score. Fix that.
let me chime in on this one because, again, it goes back to a comment I made when they first hired Vrabel. When they first hired him, when John Robinson first brought him in, I said it then. I said he's not a good defensive coordinator because we saw that in Houston. Mm-hmm. They had the 31st ranked defense in Houston. Mm-hmm. I said that when they hired Vrabel, it's all going to depend on who his offensive coordinator is and his defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And that's the same problem you got right now. When he hired LaFleur and he hired Dean Pease. Dean Pease was running the defense. The defense, played solid all the way through. Mm-hmm. Once they got some talent, they were there.
Mm-hmm.
as reference to the 2019 playoff run that they had.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
LaFleur did good when he was here, but he was only here for a year. Then Arthur Smith took over, basically ran the same type of offense that LaFleur was running,
Mm-hmm.
and we would end up averaging 28 to 30 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
So Vrabel, only thing he had to do on Sundays was manage the game. Know when to go for it, know when not to go for it. That's all he had to do.
And know the rules, because he know the rule book better than anybody.
And the problem you got today is the fact that he wants that offense to be what he wants it to be. He wants that defense to be what he wants it to be. He's not giving autonomy to his DC or his OC.
Right.
And another problem he has, he won't go outside his organization
Right.
to find different types of defensive and offensive philosophies.
Right.
And you got to do that. That's why I said you could keep Vrabel as a head coach, but you got to understand, he's got to understand that you got to let your offensive coordinator run the offense, your defensive coordinator run the defense. Yeah, you're there and you know what they're doing and everything, but they make the calls. They run the defense and the offense how they see fit. And if you're averaging 24 to 28 points a game on offense and your defense is in the top 15, top 10, you leave them alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're in football.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem he's got, he's got the Jeff Fisher mentality. He can't help but meddle in both sides. And that's his problem. And that's the biggest. He got that Jeff Fisher. And I'll go back to this. When they invited Jeff Fisher to come to their camp and they were talking to him, I was like, man, that's a huge mistake. because look, I just know sometimes in sports, you can't have bad vibes around your team. You just can't. I mean, Eddie, you played, you know what I'm talking about. Jabbar, you've been around sports a long time. You know what? You just can't have those.
Yeah.
And then, when you start bringing those people who basically are mediocre in their play, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So the bottom line is, that, like I said, they may stick status quo, but you got to have that conversation with Vrabel that something's got to change. And if you don't see the change come 4 games into next season, you got to start making some moves. And I'm sure Rand is looking at that, considering the fact that he played the game.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's got to be looking at that saying, okay, something's got to change here. And remember, he's not necessarily tied to Vrabel. Vrabel's not the coach he hired. So that's the other thing you got to look at. And Amos got to be looking at it. Okay, Vrabel, you staged a coup and you got J-Rob out of here. You got to show me something.
Yeah. So, and it's coming up in the chat. Dion says, who has a power around of Vrabel? Amy loves Vrabel. Yeah. And so she loves him. Yeah, we can all agree to that. But I think the conversation is had, like you guys have said, that, hey, man, it's time to go outside this organization, bring in some fresh new blood and get this thing turned around. Yeah, we're going to keep you as the face of the coaches. Yeah. You're going to be the face of the team. But you're going to bring in some people from outside that's going to help turn this organization around.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, Eddie Gray says he believes he might make a run at Saquon. You never know, man. You never know. And he even mentioned playing physical, and that's what we're known for. And I agree with you. When you get to the playoffs, you're going to have to play physical football. And you see that. And you see all the teams that are in that position. Baltimore, like all the teams you got listed right there are physical football teams. And that's what this team is with.
I'm going to preface it with one thing with Eddie Gray. I 100% agree with what he said, but the teams you named also have an offense that don't just run the ball. And I know Baltimore, people going to say Baltimore run the ball. Go look at Baltimore's offense this year. What did Harbaugh do? He brought in a coordinator from Georgia who has changed Lamar. You look at the 49ers, Shanahan is Shanahan. He's got that. He's a beast with that offense. The Lions, Ben Johnson, he's probably going to be somebody's head coach this year for offense.
Yeah, if he don't ask for too much money.
Yeah. And then Cleveland Stefanski,
he finally got it up here.
Stefanski is the perfect
he finally got a quarterback.
He's a perfect example of what you want this Titans team to do. He went out and got Schwartz, who is a defensive wizard. We all can agree. Schwartz can't be a head coach, but he's the perfect defensive coordinator. There's a reason Cleveland has won 10 games. I mean, they're on their 4th quarterback. They got Joe Flacco, who was on the couch.
On the couch.
And he should win comeback player of the year. And it's because Stefanski said, hey, I'll continue to work on my offense. and you work on what
The
we got
defense.
from a pass game. Then that'll be the one. And when you say based off run, they lost Chubb the beginning of the year, and Chubb's injury. For those that want to say bring back, and again, we saw the blueprint 2-3 years ago when our guy went down. Chubb's injury went down, and to Eddie Gray's point, they didn't miss a beat. They just got a running back by committee that's good enough, and they've got a quarterback that can do it, and they've got probably one of the best defenses in the league. So I agree with you. The physicality, we have gotten very stagnant. Yeah. We've seen several games over the last 2 years where this team has just got pumped in a lot of scrimmage.
Yeah, and to go along with what Eddie said, they're all run based. NFL has always been proven over the 100 years it's been in existence. You got to be able to run the ball. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah.
You have to be able to run the ball, but also to go back to what J. Lou and Eddie have been saying all season and even this past off season, you got to be able to throw the ball. And sometimes you got to be able to throw the ball in order to be able to run the ball.
Yes.
They work hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why, if you think about it, go back to 2018, 2019, 2020, we were able to run the ball and throw the ball.
Yes.
So basically what you had going on, because you had A.J. Brown and Corey Davis out there catching the ball and Jonnu Smith, it created more room for Derrick Henry to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It all works together. But, you got to be able to run the ball. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. When the King went down, what they do, they went out, like you said, running back by committee, but they found a running back whose running style is snatched up the way we would like to run the ball, which is physical, up the middle, going for hard yards. And that's why we were able to keep going. And it also helped that Tannehill was still running the play action at the time. But, again, those days are gone. So we got to move on.
Travis White says, upgrade the coaches, keep the QB coach, D-line coach, and DB coach. I agree, man. Yeah. I think the quarterback coach, his name slips me now, but London. Yeah, I think he's done wonders to get Will Levis ready to play. We already talked about Williams, and then Davis. I think he shouldn't be getting the brunt of this dysfunctional secondary. I think he should get the benefit of the doubt because he was a great coach.
Gonna come back next year.
That's the question. I think if so the better situation, in my opinion, if let's say Amy didn't make a directive to say go outside. I think the best thing for Vrabel to do is promote him to DC and get rid of Bowen. Now, will he do that? We don't know, but I hope there is a conversation. But if there's not a conversation, then he'll be the next in line, in my opinion, or Williams, or one of those two, to get that DC because Bowen can't survive another season. He just can't.
He shouldn't survive. Yeah.
He said, Travis, that's a good point, man. He said, our player actually got killed this year because the left tackle and the center is only 6'1", 285.
A regular
That's
dude.
on a good day. He's 275, 285 on a good day. Yeah. He had an extra Big Mac or something.
Yeah.
Paulie D said he's tired of Vrabel banging in Houston failures. Yeah, man, he was bringing the butts up, right?
Still does. 100%
right. So, again, not a whole bunch on the offensive side of the ball. 2 for 4 on fourth down, 50%. I mean, that's the only thing I can really say about it. Other than that, is dismal. Nick Folk was good from 53, and it looked like he could have made it from 55, maybe 56. It was a good kick. Yeah. Ty Zettner. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Nick put everything in that one.
He did. He did. I didn't think he was going to make it because, we saw him attempt that longer than 50 before, and it wasn't good. Ty Zettner probably had his best day as a Titan so far. Averaged 49 yards a punt, almost 50 yards a punt, 2 inside of 20, and 64 for the long. And so it's funny, man, because here we go, and there's y'all going to hot place talking about Brew. Somebody else brought it up, man. But yeah, so Diaz says Vrabel likes beta males under his lead. I don't think our DB coach is beta. He's got an alpha mentality. You're right.
Yep.
You're right. He does. You move on to left. Worst left guards last year to center, and he's the worst center too. The guy should be playing the league. I like him, but he's just not there. So it's funny because it's bad as the pass protection is. Brew is actually a good run blocking center. Because he can run. Now, if he get him out in space, he's good. Now, when he has create a hole,
He's a
He can't do
lightweight.
it. Yeah, he's lightweight. But him running down the field, pulling and stuff, yeah, he's good for that. But I don't think he's a center. I don't even know if he's a depth player at this point, in my opinion. I don't know. He's just not big enough. He's not
Yeah.
big enough.
I just think bottom line is what it goes back to what we said earlier in the season. What you're finding is some players were put in positions and had opportunity to shine, and they just haven't done it. Let's just be real. Brewer's one of those. You know, he talked good all off season and everything, but then the regular season started playing, and you got to and I'll be the first one to say I thought he might do pretty decent at center simply because he had that one good game against Green Bay last year. Obviously, I was blind on that, you know, because bottom line is he's been beat up the whole season and cannot win. So it's going to be interesting.
Who played guard that game? Who was the guards? So you had, I can't remember.
I think Raiders was one.
Raiders played left guard. Who was right guard? Y'all remember?
Was it Levine? Did they have Levine at guard?
They had Levine, but they didn't play him at guard.
I can't remember.
I can't remember who played right guard.
But that goes back to what y'all said earlier. If he don't have anybody beside him, they can't hold their own. Which in that game they did. He's not, because we all said, oh man, Brewer had a great game against Kenny. And so yeah, if the side pieces are weak, then he's really gonna shine for that. But yeah, so got the Jags at home this last game. There's a 3-way tie for first, and it's gonna come down to week 18 for the division for the AFC South, which is kind of fun.
Right. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and J. Lou, you probably know this better. If Houston loses, I know they're automatically out.
Yep. So
that means Jacksonville, if they lose against us, they'll just go to the wild card, and Indy would win the division.
Potentially, if Buffalo loses. Yeah. So Indy, Pittsburgh is the very last. They need a lot of help. That's why that game is probably first, because there's really no playoff implications for Baltimore. But Pittsburgh can be the domino that, hey, if Pittsburgh wins, then all the teams on Sunday know what they got to do. Houston is the one that controls their own destiny. A win, if they win, they lock up a playoff spot regardless of what the Jags do or not. I believe they're the only one that can clinch a spot like that where they could be wild card or divisional champion. And I think Jacksonville and the Colts need some help if they take a loss.
Okay. Eddie Gray says bring back Ben Jones, man. You know he was concussed there toward the end of the season, so I don't know how he's doing. But
I one thing I said about I've been saying this all season too. When you go into free agency and everything, and I agree you got to build your O-line through the draft. But if you can't find a veteran center, you need to find one. Yeah. Somebody who can run block and pass block, because you need that expertise in the middle of the line.
And call out the protection schemes to help the quarterback. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Be able to call out the blitzes and so forth. So, man, thank y'all again for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie on LG with J. Lou. Happy New Year to y'all, man. Appreciate y'all support us for another year. Got one more week in the 2023-2024 season for the Tennessee Titans, man. 5-11.
And the misery will be done.
And then we'll be looking forward to the offseason. Can Brunskill play center? He can.
Yes.
He can play all positions on the line, guard, tackle, and center.
Yeah, I don't know, though.
We'll see.
He's had his own struggles at guard as well, so.
He's actually not that bad. He's had some few.
Not that bad, but he's had his own set of struggles. Like I said, up, really. The only person on that line that I give a pass to is Skoronski, and that's because he's a rookie. And I think he's done okay for the most part, being a rookie and everything. He's getting blown up, but again, like we've been saying, he has no help on either side of him. So he's on an island by himself. So yeah, them veteran defensive tackles and defensive guards, defensive linemen, they're gonna blow him up, especially now this time of year when you know he's hit that wall.
Yeah, he's gonna have to have some people around him, beside him, that can be solid. So. Yeah, Paulie D, I agree with you, man. He says we need names, no more plug and play, and hope finally has some cash. See what happens. But thank y'all again, man, for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Thank y'all for joining, supporting the show for another year. Get it out there, share, man. We're across a lot of platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. So check us out, man. My man, Big Louie in the building. So
Yeah.
appreciate you joining us, man. Check us out, man, next time after the last game of the season, that is, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis, agree with you, man. 3 old linemen. We need a whole overall. We should be getting 4 new. Oh, you should see at least 3 new offensive linemen next year to go along with Peter
Yes.
and Brunskill. So hopefully we'll have some good results. I'm excited more than for this offseason. This is just because the overhaul is going to be major. Hopefully, not only the players but the coaching ranks too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's you always feel like you got hope because you're in the AFC South. Again, there's 3 teams in the AFC South with 9 wins. The AFC South can put 2 teams in the playoffs. Who would have thought the Titans would be the one in 4th place when you look at that? So you got to think about the Colts and the Texans both drafted in the top 5 last year, and look at where they're at after 1 year of change. Will this team, will this ownership group be willing to change? I'm gonna be honest. I'm telling you, that seat, I think that seat continues to get a little warmer after that conversation, only because now you've put Amy in a position where she's got to start selling seats to this new stadium they finna start building. And it's
they start in a few weeks, don't they?
Yeah, yes. It's a little hard to sell tickets when you coming off 4-13, 5-11, 5 out of the last 20. You've got to put something on there to give us some hope to put them in there. So I think from a business aspect side of it, I think that's part of why you started to see this thing probably heat up a little more. Because again, I think she's a realist. She understands a little bit of ball with the people around her. We knew J-Rob put this team in a bad predicament. But everybody that's saying J-Rob put the team in a bad predicament, Vrabel picked this team this year. Now, granted, you was probably strapped for cash a little bit, but you had she gave you authority to do that this year. So I think we stripped, to G-Witt's point, I think some of that power stripped if he stays. Hey, you just the figurehead, and this is what you got to do on the coordinators.
Yeah, and Travis, Mike, you make a great point. Thank you for that, man. A lot of the people that we signed were on 1 year guaranteed deals.
1 year deals.
So this roster will look a lot different. Than what we used to.
Yeah,
very good job by Rand. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Let's remember Rand's position as well. He came into it really just, for lack of a better term, a black hole. He had no shot.
Yes.
Of doing anything this year. So I don't begrudge his decisions as far as what players he brought in, even with Andre Dillard. You take a chance on him to see what you can do. I mean, hopefully you thought he was a former 1st round pick. You thought maybe, change in venue. As we often say, sometimes a change in venue helps a player to become better. Obviously, that didn't work with him. But, and that's the thing you got to look at. But it did work with Al-Shaair. I mean, he came in from San Francisco as a backup, and he's a starter and actually played well. So, again, I think you see some of those free agent moves work out. Some of them didn't. But I think this year, in this offseason, this is probably going to be the most interesting offseason we've had since, really, in all honesty, since J-Rob was his first year as GM.
Yeah.
Because we got a few draft picks, but we got a lot of cap space. So that gives us a lot of maneuverability as far as being able to go out to get, I'm going to say, specific free agents that's going to plug into holes that where we need, I'm going to say the L word, leadership in those positions.
Yeah.
You need somebody at center. You need somebody right now, I think, at free safety with Bayer being gone. I just don't see Hooker being the one. Even though he's a smart player and everything, you got to have somebody else back there. So,
Travis, not only Landry, but he got to stop dropping Nico too. Stop dropping
those guys.
Stop dropping those guys.
Big tackles in pass, but I'm like,
Big Jeff and dropped one time.
See, just reading our fans' chats lets us know that the Titans have to change, because if everybody on here realizes that we're dropping our best pass rusher in coverage, you think these offensive coordinators in the league ain't noticing that? Like it makes no sense.
Now, if you want to do something, take a page from the Cowboys. How they take Michael Parsons. Now, I'm not saying Harold Landry's that level. Michael Parsons is the best defensive player in the NFL, arguably. But if you want to do something different with him, stand him up let them blitz from, just different positions like they do. If you want to do something like that, but don't drop the man in coverage. He's one of your best pass rushers you got.
Yep.
Now, I agree with you, man.
That's crazy.
I agree with you. So he said he had $5 and some duct tape to try to
That's
make
what,
the
that's
team.
what
Yeah, 5-11. To your point, J. Lou, who would have thought it? 5-11 and have the number one red zone defense, 1,000-yard running back, 1,000-yard receiver, all-purpose, over 1,000-yard all-purpose for a rookie running back.
And the only team going into the last week of the season with 2 10-sack.
2 10-sack, and the best punter in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, go figure. Go figure, guys. But again, thank y'all for joining us, man. Thank y'all for supporting the show for another season. Check us out next week. We'll be talking about the Jags and wrapping up a few other things for the show. But this is the Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnett, G with J. Lou, man. We out of here, man. Peace.
Peace.